All right, folks. So I really only want to film the intro part once, so I'm going to use some placeholders for the hosting service names. So today we're going to walk through hosting your site on, and this method has a difficulty rating of, so this is one of the 3 hosting solutions that I describe on the public library documentation. I only chose 3 because it takes a lot of time to lay out all the documentation, but I think these options should give you enough choice when trying to decide between complexity and cost, and hopefully watching any of these videos should kind of illuminate how other platforms work as well. I'm going to walk through this process step by step and also use the public library documentation as a guide so you know how to navigate it later. I'll also do a brief explanation of what web hosting is in case you're unfamiliar with the topic. So hopefully by the end of this, you have a really clear image of how this all works. So without further ado, let's get started and understand what web hosting is. I'm going to talk about it for just a little bit so we have a really solid foundation to work off of. So here's a very basic diagram that shows how web hosting works. I've broken it into these 4 pieces and I'm going to explain each piece one by one. So first things first is our website. So it's very important to understand that websites are made of files. It's just a collection of files. And if you recall in our example, when we built our website, when we ran the faircamp build command, it spit out this folder that is filled with these files. So this probably looks familiar if you've ever clicked on the inspect element button on your web browser. But this, alongside of all these other things, basically tell the website how to look and what to do. You can dig into it if you like, but you don't necessarily need to understand it in order to host it. So we take our files and then we store them somewhere. Our storage can be anything. Without explicitly describing what it is, you can just imagine it as a bucket that you place your files into, and they are available publicly online. It's very similar to how when you upload something to Google Drive, you can point a link to it and people can access it. Websites are very similar to this. However, because it's not Google Drive, we actually have to customize it a little bit further. So we have this part, which is the quote-unquote server. When someone types an address into their search bar, there needs to be a translator in the middle that basically informs the web browser where to look for the files. This description is very abstract, but as we walk through the hosting solution, it will begin to make more sense how these pieces all work together. All right, so we're gonna walk through the Backblaze and Cloudflare hosting solution. So this is the most difficult one to set up, but it's also only a $1 one-time payment to set up your account. Pricing will scale based on the traffic, but the traffic limits where it actually starts kicking in and charging you money is like very high. It's like well under what you would typically have for a faircamp site. Unless you start a ton of people start listening to your music, but if that's the case, then, it's a totally different situation. But anyways, so if you go to the public library documentation at docs.whereditgo.diamonds, you can click on the hosting section here and then click on the Backblaze button, and it will bring you to the tutorial. So the first step is you want to make an account on Backblaze. So you can click here and it'll bring you to the Backblaze website. You can click sign in or sign up or whatever, but as you can see, I'm already signed in, so it brings me here right away. So once you make an account, you'll see this screen here. And then we want to make a storage bucket. So if you recall in our diagram, this is our storage portion. So here's where we will store our website files. So go to this button that says create a bucket, click it. I'm gonna call mine incognito the faircamp site and make sure that the files are public. I'm going to disable the encryption and disable the object lock, and then I will create the bucket. So you can see it's here. I noted down some things here. You have to make sure that the name doesn't have any invalid characters and the settings are correctly configured. If you haven't added payment information to your account yet, you'll have to do that next. Of course, I've already done that. So once you create your bucket, you'll see this screen here. So if you look inside the buckets, you can click this upload download button. You'll see it is empty. So we need to fill this with our website files. So if you drag and drop all of your files in here, it won't preserve the structure of the files. So like for instance, you have this folder here. It's basically gonna upload all of these as like a flat list, and it's gonna break your website. So in order to upload files to Backblaze, we're actually gonna use the B2 CLI, which is their command line tool. So there is a link to the documentation if you are familiar with reading things like this. You can install it via their downloadable packages, or you can install it through, let's see, you can install it through Homebrew, which if you're on Mac, I highly recommend this formula here, or this method of installing it. I briefly touched on Homebrew in the previous video, but if you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically a tool that you can install, and this allows you to install other tools as well. And it's all done via the terminal, so that's why there's this special Homebrew tool in order to do that. So if you want to install the B2 CLI and you're using Homebrew, you can just come here and say brew install B2 tools. I think that's what it is. Let me just double check actually. Yeah, B2 tools. Oops. Yep, and it will install. So once it's installed, you can say b2 -- version, and this will basically confirm that it is installed. And yeah, it's probably important, but we'll just stick to the tutorial that I have here. So yeah, next you want to create an application key. So you basically, this is like an access key, so it knows that you know, you are who you say you are. Basically connects you to your account and specifies the bucket. So what we'll do is we'll go to our Backblaze page and we'll go to the tab here that says application keys. I think in the tutorial it shows it on the bucket page, but this is just if you haven't created an application key, so it'll probably show this to you on your screen. But then it will give you this dialog here that allows you to walk through the creation. So I'm just going to go on mine, add a new application key. I'm going to call it incognito thief key 2, because I already have one. We'll say it's read and write, allow access to, you can say all, or you can say just your specific bucket here. And I will say create new key. And then this will give me the key ID, key name, and application key. So now Yeah, keep these a secret, so don't show anybody what I just showed you. So now we'll set our credentials for the B2 command line. So in your terminal, you want to say B2 account authorize, and then you will give your key ID and your application key, and hit enter. And this will confirm that you're authorized. And then you can go to the next step, which is upload your files. So this is the command that you'll run in order to upload your files. You have to open a terminal in the folder where your files are. So on Mac and Linux, you'll specify like Mac file path structure, and on Windows it'll be just a little bit different. I'm on a Mac, so I'll show you an easy way to do this. If you go to your project folder where you built your faircamp site, you can right click on the faircamp build folder, and then on the folder name you can right click and say open in terminal, and it'll open the terminal in the folder. And if you say pwd, you can see that you are in the folder. Okay. So, that's the wrong one. We'll run the B2 sync command. So you can specify the folder name by copying and pasting this, and say B2 sync -- delete, and then paste the folder name. Or if you're already in the folder, you can just put a dot here, and you want to say B2 // and then the name of your bucket, which is incognito thief faircamp sites. Yep. And then when you run this command, it will upload all of your files. So now when you go to your buckets, if you go to the browse files and go to your bucket, you can see that the files are here. So now, just in order to test your site and make sure that you can at least access one of the pages, you can go to the index.html file and click the friendly URL, and this should open up your page. Now, you'll notice that we can access the page, but if we try to click on something, it will break. So, recalling our diagram, this is why we need this server in between to basically tell the web browser how to access the correct files at the right time in our storage. So we are going to set that up next. So we need to create a route translator. So we're going to go to Cloudflare in order to do this. So you'll open up Cloudflare by clicking this link here. And you'll have to create an account if you don't have one yet. Of course, I already have one, so I have mine here. What you'll do is you'll say create application, and you can just skip these pre-built options and start with hello world. So it's just the basic template. You can name your worker name. In fact, I'll name mine to incognito thief sites just for kicks. And this will be the code that it deploys with. And we'll just hit deploy. And it will create this like blank route translator. So the next thing you want to do is click on edit code. it'll bring up the code panel here. And then if you go to the documentation here, skip, so we already did this. I have some code here that you can just copy and paste in. So there is this base URL parameter that's defined at the top, and we're gonna replace a custom string here with like a reference to our bucket where we updated or where we uploaded our files. So the first thing you want to do before we customize that string, just copy this block of code here and paste it into the paste it into the code panel. And then in the base URL, so what we'll do is we'll actually find our bucket name. So my bucket name is incognito thief faircamp site. And I will just type this here. Delete this and say incognito thief faircamp site. And then I'll save it. And then I will click deploy. So this will save the version. And then, yep, we can refresh it. And if we go to our site, boom, we have our live website. We can actually click here, listen, or download songs if we've configured it to do so. And this is your finished site. Congratulations. So just a quick tip. If you want to refresh your site and make changes, you will want to delete all the contents of your bucket. So you can either do that with the command line using the B2 RM command. Type this and put your bucket name here. Or you can go to the dashboard and click this box here and say delete, and it'll delete all your files. And then you just repeat step 8, which is running the B2 sync command to re-upload your files. So this method requires a lot more familiarity with your system. Hopefully it wasn't too hard to follow, and if it was, I recommend checking out the Bunny CDN or NeoCities hosting solution. But yeah, if you have any questions, please hit the support email that's linked down below, and I'll get back to you with any inquiries you have. And yeah, stay tuned for more updates along the way.